It's Dumb Guy Live, everybody.
Oh shit! I gotta change.
Yeah. Oh no, that's a good name. Ibu backed it up on Phil. That's accurate. It's Dumb Guy Live, everybody. It is Sunday, November 26th. Dumb Guy Live, Faux 5. Coming at you live. Yeah, it's we're doing 45. That's Donald Trump was the 45th president, and as such,
we on our Garrett Cole shit.
Is dedicated to someone worse than him, CM Punk. So
I'm
taking
Trump over CM Punk all day. Like, not gonna lie. I mean,
well, see, they're pretty similar, because
same fan base too. They like the Punk fan base also supports Trump. You have to remember that.
Well, they're incredibly charismatic people, both of them. But it's unfortunately their morals that bite them in the ass.
And then you have to remember also that but at least Punk is like, he tries to be the Robin Hood. Donald Trump like admits he's like a piece of shit, like he's a hypocrite. But Punk just think he's like the villain, the hero in his own mind. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, they keep failing upwards, both of them, despite their incompetence. So anyway, we got Jamie here. Jamie, how's it going?
I'm doing good. You know, good to have the whole Dumb Guy Live trio back. Murph's finally back. He's not been here for a couple of weeks, and obviously we've not been doing every single week anyway. But and obviously, like you said, we've got the big Punk news to get into. It's going to be a very interesting one. A rare bit of Fed topic on the Dumb Guy Live. Maybe pop a little number here and there. And we got Stardom to talk about. We got New Japan World Tag League. So yeah, should be a good one.
It's gonna be good stuff. We're gonna start with this. Hopefully this is the last time I ever say these words. We're gonna start with WWE on Dumb Guy Live here today. Because I wanted to talk about it because I feel like it's really important and I feel like people will care about it. So yeah, as Murph sort of sorts it out down there, we'll just get going on this. So last night, Survivor Series, Big 5 pay-per-view, right? They're doing the War Games. We got Orton in there. They do it. Match is over. And then, as the show is about to go off the air, it's Punk. He's there. He comes out. He does an entrance and everything. And he has signed. It's been reported that the belief is that it's a multi-year deal with WWE. And we got the photo of him with Triple H, which, if you follow the ins and outs of these of Punk, Murph, you gotta chill, bro. I'm trying to do the pod, and you're like vamping. You're Fortnite emoting down there. So we got the photo of him with Triple H. If you followed this at all, you know that they fucking hated each other. Maybe still do. I kind of got the sense from that photo that it was very awkward, in my opinion. But
yeah, the face on Punk.
Yeah, I mean, as recently as last year, Punk was reported as saying stuff like calling Triple H Triple H, referring to like Triple H and his stooges in WWE. Yeah, obviously a lot has changed since then. We had Brawl Out last year. We had the start of Collision. We had All In at Wembley with Jack Perry. And we had his subsequent firing. And now he is back after nearly a full decade. Wow, that's actually crazy. It'll be 10 years.
I was at his last show.
Yeah.
I was at the Rumble.
Really? It'll be 10 years come January, the last time Punk was in WWE. And he's been through a lot since then. So I'm going to start with Jamie. Just give me sort of, because you and I, we don't talk about a lot of American wrestling. Even though I know you watch it all and you pay attention to it and all that. What, just overall thoughts on Punk, on the situation, all that type of stuff?
Yeah. So on Punk, since I was there All In, and I kind of saw obviously I didn't see what happened. I saw the security guard running up the ramp, and then obviously saw the subsequent reports and stuff.
That's
so
right.
I knew something was a little bit off. And you know what CM Punk's like, obviously. And coming out of that, I thought maybe I was there for CM Punk's last match, right? Because I thought of him going to the WWE initially was kind of like, that was always something for wrestling fans that was never going to happen. As the weeks kind of went on, it appeared as though the ball was rolling in that kind of direction. But even then, right until the moment it happened, I didn't think it was going to happen at Survivor Series. I was kind of thinking Rumble at the earliest, Mania. When it did happen, you know, I'm gonna lie here. I know you guys are on the on the biggest on WWE. I kind of, you know, like you said, I keep up with WWE, and as a fan of Chicago Phillip, there's no one quite like him in wrestling, for better or worse. You know, you know, there's only so much of CM Punk's antics that I think can be tolerated in this industry, but. You know, he's truly one of one, and he's someone who I do enjoy keeping up with. So seeing him, you know, come into WWE, which is a very surreal moment. I can't lie, I popped for it. You know, I was fired up. You know, Murph shaking his head. I don't care. You know, I enjoyed it. It's where, you know, I was already kind of fired up because Randy came back, and I'm a big Randy Orton fan as well. So the vibes were vibing for WWE fans. For everyone else, it was a little bit of a, you know, bit of a strange moment there, but I enjoyed it. But it's very, very surreal. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, how it all kind of plays out in terms of, you know, who backstage is like not happy with it, and you know what kind of stuff, you know, what kind of schedule he's going to be working on. Obviously, he said multi-year deal. Whether he's working on a similar schedule to what he was doing in AEW, well, I guess we'll have to see. But you know, as in terms of the moment, I enjoyed this.
Okay, Murph. What about
I got the positives there.
This is a victory lap. A victory lap for me. For the last year or so, I've been on a crusade against CM Punk. The moment from the highs and lows. This all started when he went into business for himself against Hangman Page. When he decided that he would do the things he did. And then this kept going all summer. He got hurt, thank God, because that rain would have been terrible. And I try not to celebrate injuries, but for a bad person like himself, good riddance, gets injured, and then decides to attack the innocent people that are the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, innocent, after trying to humiliate them live on a press conference. This happens. Thank God he gets hurt again. And then we have the great moments like that we thought the guy was gone. When Colt Cabana came out in front of a large crowd and the whole place was going crazy for Colt Cabana, we thought he was gone. But thanks to the incompetence of Tony Khan, they made him his own show, AEW Collision. It was going to be CM Punk's show. First episode in Chicago. Almost was at Daly's place because CM Punk's that big of a fucking idiot. But you see, CM Punk decides to do all this. We find out that he wants his own roster. His roster of misfit toys. Malachi Black fucking sucks. Andrade, attitude problem. All these fucking idiots are on CM Punk's show. Oh my God, this is going to be such a success. All these idiots on the same show? How is this going to go wrong? Well, it did. And I was saying it the entire time. People are telling me, Murphy's on his own island now. You have nothing to worry about. Well, I did have something to worry about because he walked in his first episode. He decides to have a line. He's one Bill Phil in a world of counterfeit bucks. And allegedly, the Bucks said this line was okay. I will say that is bullshit. They had no choice. So he calls himself One Bill Phil. And then for the next 2 months, he goes through a terrible run where, number one, he looks like a skinhead. Number two, he legitimately has some terrible matches with Ricky Starks, another wrestler that fucking sucks. He has matches with guys who are washed. And he also teams up with his criminal friends, FTR. And as he is doing this, One Bill Phil is no longer One Bill Phil. He's Half Mil Phil. 500,000 viewers a week. Actually, it was less some days because I remember when the 495 hit. This was the worst television run in the history of his career. But here's the thing. We're just getting started. Phil decides that he's going to go after a young talent like Jack Perry, a talent who has main evented pay-per-views, a talent that is drew well, a talent that is just getting started. But Phil's a has-been. Half Mil Phil, the biggest has-been this industry's ever seen. He is not happy with this. So he decides to go on a crusade against Jack Perry, and it all bubbles up at Wembley Stadium. After Phil goes on his dumb rants and says, "Ooh, I didn't get picked up at the airport. Ooh, you're trying to keep me away from the elite." Phil just keeps going, and Jack Perry decides to say 4 words. Cry me a river. Because CM Punk's the biggest crybaby this business has ever had. He will do a bunch of things and say, I'm doing it for my friends. I'm doing it for Nora Flanagan. No one gives a fuck about Nora Flanagan, your high school teacher friend. No one gives a fuck. CM Punk, you're the worst guy this business has ever had. You're worse than Benoit. You're worse. You are the worst. You're a stain on this business. You are the reason that UFC is so big. And speaking of UFC, I remember him getting knocked out twice. That's what I remember, which means you are a bitch. We all know that. So now, Phil gets fired by Tony Khan, which is Tony Khan's first good decision in this whole Punk saga. Tony Khan fires him. Thank the Lord. And what's it called? Phil, instead of his morals, WWE bad, Triple H bad, William Regal a stooge, which I agree with. Good, that's a good opinion by Phil, but that's for another day. But, Phil decides to come crawling back. Comes crawling back to Vince, the devil. He comes crawling back. He says, Miz, suck a blood money covered dick. Well, you're sucking him too. Get on your knees. Phil is back. Phil is back in the WWE. He's like a hero to Chicago. But remember that he turned your back on you. He turned his back on AEW. And WWE fans, if you're rejoicing, just get the fuck ready. Because he's going to turn his back on you guys too. Because he's a devil. AEW has their devil. Phil is the devil.
Murph, I think that was the promo of the year. I think that was. I think I might submit it for consideration for the Observer Awards next year. I really enjoyed that. That was good. I can tell you put thought into that. There was good momentum to it. I like that. You should teach those NXT level up people how to do promos down in Orlando. Okay, really quickly, I'm gonna get into my thoughts too. Got a super chat here from Anwar Starwin, one of our most reliable super chatters and viewers. $5 super chat. Much love to y'all and everyone in the chat. Most wrestlers are con artists, so when they switch up, I'm never surprised. Keep up the great work. Salute. Peace. Thank you so much, Anwar. We really appreciate it. Always so much. That was great. So here's my thought. I'm going to ramble for a bit, but it's only because I care a lot about CM Punk. So CM Punk was my first favorite wrestler as a kid. I distinctly remember being like 12, 13, watching it. I think it was because I had gone to I had hung out with my cousins, and we went to one of his friends' houses in Ohio, and he was a huge wrestling fan. And so they were watching it one night, and I saw CM Punk, and I was like, oh, he's pretty cool. And then I just started watching it, and genuinely since then, I've been a fan of wrestling ever since. He was always my favorite in WWE. Obviously, super excited when I was in when would that have been? Yeah, when I was in high school in the summer of Punk happened, it was really fun. All great stuff, right? Awesome performer. I'm super sad when he leaves WWE, but I think it's cool at the same time because at that point I'm feeling I'm just not really invested in the product. I don't really think the show's that good week in and week out. I don't really, I'm in high school, so I don't really have a lot of financial freedom, and international stuff is way less accessible. I never really thought Impact or TNA was good. So I'm kind of down on wrestling, and of course I'm down on CM Punk leaving, but I'm also like, this is cool, right? He stood up because I'm reading the dirt sheets and all that. I'm like, okay, he stood up to WWE, he backed it up. And then you get, as the next year or so comes out, you get the podcasts and the Cabana saga and all that. And I'm like, you know what? Punk, he's such a smart guy, and he's such a well put together guy. It's very cool. Very cool. Anyway, always a fan of CM Punk. Think he's the best American wrestling has ever been for the most part. Obviously, 7 years later, in September 2021, I am extremely excited when he returns to wrestling for AEW, which I considered and still do consider to be the greatest American wrestling promotion of all time. And I think his first run is fantastic. I think he is featuring young guys, having great matches. I love that Darby was his first feud. Love the MJF feud, one of the best feuds in AEW history, maybe the best feud in AEW history. And I was ready for him to be AEW champion. Had no problem with anything like that, right? Unfortunately, he gets injured, but then he comes back and it's like he's going to win it again with the Mox. I love the Mox setup too, with him losing in like 3 minutes. Just great stuff.
Fuck
right?
you, Ace Steel as well. I forgot to mention him.
Okay, thank you. Good. Oh, that's another moment. Like the Ace Steel promo, incredible. Like one of the better promos in AEW history. Like because people forget that segment, like it was kind of dying. Like it was kind of bad to get started, and then Ace Steel saved it. And then Brawl Out happens, and I'm like, that's so weird. Like that is so fucking weird. Like why are grown men, and I don't really take a side on it, right? I think you guys would back me up on that. Like I don't really, when Brawl Out happens, I'm not like, Team Elite or Team Punk or whatever, because I wasn't there and I don't really know what happened. And it just feels like, what are you fighting about? Like it's like what was even the issue to get started? Like I'm baffled at why Punk had to like make those comments in the press conference, I guess. But at that point I'm just like, that's really weird. But luckily I know, pretty decent idea that Punk's going to come back, and of course he eventually does with Collision. I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. Coming back, he's got a great first feud with Samoa Joe, right? And Collision's going well. I like the show. I like Dynamite too, of course. And everything's going fine, and then it fucking happens again. He was back for 2 months, and within that time, he managed to get in another fight backstage. There's like a 42-year-old man, 43-year-old. No, he's even older than that, right? However old he is. He's like, it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're an adult. You have coworkers. Like, why are you starting fights with people? And this is one of the funniest things. Like one of the most baffling things that people brought up to me with like TK eventually firing him was like that it was like a labor issue, and that if you somehow side with the company in that circumstance, you're like, oh, you hate worker, you're siding with the billionaire or whatever. It's like, okay, I am a labor activist. I have like gone out of my way to like participate in strikes and things like that. Like maybe read up on like Marxism and things like that a little bit if you want to like talk about this. But one of the funnier things about that was the prerequisite to having a positive, like to having good labor, is a safe work environment. And if you're having a coworker threaten to beat the shit out of people, one that has a power imbalance because he is so clearly Tony Khan's favorite, then it's like, what are you talking about, right? Like, you can't just expect to get the shit beaten out of you by a superior at work and expect that to be fine. So I'm like, you know what? I get it. Punk's lost his mind, but at least he stick to his guns. Will always have the moments of greatness in AEW, and of course his first run in WWE, and always on the indies as well. So you know what? It is what it is. That's his career. That's it. And 3 months later, he's in WWE. And he's back to it. He doesn't, and it was incredibly disillusioning. I guess I don't even know. I was very disillusioned by it, right? What appealed CM Punk so much to me, beyond him being an incredible performer, like I think he's one of the best performers in American wrestling history, if not the best, right? Incredible in-ring worker, just in terms of psychology and being able to evoke emotion. The best promo of all time, in my opinion. But what made him so special, because there's a million incredible performers. There's Omega, there's Gunther, there's all these people, right? What makes him stand out is that he has his gimmick, but he really lives the gimmick in a way that's not obnoxious. Like, it always seemed like he truly believed everything that he was talking about, whether it was mocking WWE and the MJF feud, because that was kind of the undertones of MJF's character for a while, was that he was going to leave, or whether that was the reports backstage as recently as, again, a year and a half ago, him saying that Triple H was referring to Triple H's stooges, right? And calling out Saudi blood money, and just all the different things about criticizing WWE, right? Because I think WWE is like evil as an entity. And I thought that just was very, very admirable. Like, right? He was wrestling. I love it. And it is also one of the places where people are least willing to actually speak truth to power and actually try to bring out some real like change beyond like a personal disagreement. And so when somebody actually does that, especially a top star, right? Roman Reigns isn't going to do anything like that. Kenny Omega is not going to do anything like that. They're both guys who were just content to do whatever, right? Which is fine. That's their prerogative. But when somebody actually does that, it's like, wow, that's actually really cool. He stuck his neck out. He lost a WWE contract for 7 years because or a wrestling contract for 7 years because he refused to work for Vince McMahon, which I think is incredible. I would argue that maybe working for Saudi blood money is worse than working under Vince McMahon. If you're looking at on balance what the Saudi royal family has done to people, to human rights versus what Vince has done, maybe you don't work out that calculus in that way. But I guess the point is this: for a long time, CM Punk wasn't just a great performer. He was also, I thought, just an incredibly admirable and like enthralling human being. And now to me, just another wrestler. He's just a guy. He's just a dude. He's just a guy who I think was a fantastic performer, even potentially still is. Like, I love Seth Rollins. I have no doubt that he and Seth Rollins are going to have a great feud if that's what it ends up being, or Drew McIntyre, or whoever it ends up being, right? But at the same time, he's just a wrestler. I don't give a shit about anything that about it beyond that. And it makes me feel stupid. You know what I mean? For believing that that it was going to be anything more than that, right? It's like, man, it transports me back to being 12 and being a CM Punk fan. I'm like, wow, you really bought that shit, huh? You Mark, you idiot. So it's very disappointing.
And I want to jump in on that too, because like, this isn't me being like a guy who's been Punk bad for my whole life. Like, when Punk came back in 2021, I was thrilled.
Yeah,
I was hyped for it. I thought it was gonna like change AEW and take AEW to the next level. When I was 8 years old, my first like one of my first wrestling events I ever went to was the 2014 Royal Rumble, where Punk just disappeared after the show. And I was a Punk fan. My name's Jack Murphy. I went by JM Punk. That was my backyard wrestling nickname. I loved Punk. Punk was like the hero. Punk was the guy standing up. But but now we know that that's just a fraud. Punk's not he's not Robin Hood. He's a guy who wants to line his pockets and does not give a shit. And he realized that his voice against the voiceless, that's gone. The voice of the voiceless, like, that's not a thing anymore. Because what is he going to be the voice against now? There's nothing more. Yeah. He was AEW, that's gone. He was the voice against the Elite. Can't do that anymore. So now he's just like, fuck this. I'm just going to be Saudi Punk. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What are you, the voice against MBS? Well, you're going to be going to King Fahd National Stadium, and you're going to be fucking wrestling, and you're going to be
enjoy the paycheck. Hope you
$4 million to wrestle one match
from it.
And that's nice. It's not like for Mr. Union activist. I mean, okay, Punk, you don't go to Starbucks one week, congratulations, but you're also working for the fucking Saudi royal family. Like, Jesus, what are we doing here?
Yeah, like, I want to be clear about a couple things. If you are employed by WWE, unless you are like Sami Zayn, you are by extension an employee of the Saudi royal family. All right, just to be clear about that.
You're the same as Cristiano Ronaldo. You're the same as Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, like, yeah. You're any of these, like, you're Phil Mickelson, right? So, and then I also want to point. Oh, sorry, not you, IDK. My bad. I also want to point something out here. This is not coming from a perspective of like some AEW super fan right now. I think the peak of AEW pre, 2021, even into 2022 a bit, I think is as good as it gets. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as they sign Ric Flair, fuck that. I don't give a shit about this company anymore. They can go out of business for all I care. So I just want to be clear that this is not like some dub good agenda. This is really just about Punk and WWE is my evaluation there. Maybe a couple months ago that would have been the case, but no, not at this point. Not at this point. So yeah. Anyway, anything else to add, y'all? Like, Jamie? We Murph and I just talked for like 15 minutes there. What else you got?
No, I just want to kind of because my initial point and then the kind of juxtaposition to Murph and you, because it was kind of very different stance. Let's kind of make it clear. I don't kind of disagree on anything that you said. In fact, I would tend to agree on pretty much all of it. I don't think you really can disagree when you look at that, like, you know, how much money they earn from, you know, Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, and the kind of moral side of that sort of thing. My kind of thing is like, in terms of these wrestlers and the kind of the stuff we know about the majority of these people, I tend to try and not hold any of them to like some kind of high moral standard. And I understand where you come from on the CM Punk thing, because that was his thing, right? He was always, you know, he was the guy who would go against the establishment and stuff like that. But I don't know, I just kind of tend to think like, you know, that, you know, we obviously with kind of you know, the people we hear from and stuff like that, we know more about these kind of things than most. So yeah, I just tend to try not to be too surprised when this kind of thing happens. You know what I mean? And in terms of you know, just kind of my general, you know, because I said, you know, before, I pop when it happened, stuff like that. I do watch WWE. I don't mind admitting that, as much as it may not be the most popular opinion. But you know, my kind of stance on it is that interesting things may happen, which will be fun to follow. I cover the news for wrestling. This is good for me. You know, I get to.
I mean, he's like, we're talking about, like, I hate talking about WWE, and it's our top. And I felt like I had to. Like, it's Punk. How are you not going to talk about it? You're so right on that.
Yeah, but those are my kind of overarching thoughts. I tend to agree with what you all said. But you know, I'm going to enjoy the, you know, watching a little bit here and there. And but yeah, it's a very interesting time.
Okay. Let's oh yeah, Murph's gonna hey, just a reminder, Murph, don't cover the mic with your hand when you're holding it. But yeah, go for it.
Oh, thanks. You know, basically I just want to like preface though. There are wrestlers that I enjoy who have some like questionable morals. Like, I'll admit that. But none of those wrestlers have ever made like being the moral high ground part of their character. You know, Punk will walk around wearing these trans rights shirts. You know, great. That's what we support. Punk will wear these great like thing shirts, but then he signs with a company that does deals with Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, to leave y'all with this, because you know I have to get a flight back to college in Orlando right now. Maybe I'll see Punk there twerking on the side of the road next to PC. I don't really know. If I see him, Ibu told me to ask if he could buy me lunch. You know, I'm not gonna do that. It's pretty retarded. But you know, I'm gonna go with him, and you know, just don't be a hypocrite. And I said a bad word there. I'm sorry, but don't be a hypocrite. And what's it called? You know, CM Punk's a bad guy. Nora Flanagan's a bad person too, and Ace Steel's a bad person too. So just I hate everyone from Chicago except for Parker. But you know, I gotta go. Murph out.
All right, thank you, Murph. We'll catch you. Message me your beast of the week when we get to that time. All right.
It's Zandokin. Like it's honestly.
Oh, yeah, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. I like that answer. All right, cool. All right, we'll catch you later, Murph. All right, let me fix this banner here, Jamie-san, and then we'll get going on this. Okay, so let's see what else here. What else to talk about? I think that's about good for Punk. Yeah, just to be clear, I'm sure he'll do great in WWE. I'm sure he'll be a draw. I'm sure that he will have, at the very least, great feuds. I'm still kind of questionable about the matches because he's been hurt a lot. And some of the guys that he'd be wrestling with aren't, you know, if it's like LA Knight or if it's even like Roman, it might not be that great of like an in-ring performance. But you know, I have no doubt he'll do great. But there are a lot of great wrestlers. The thing that made Punk special to me is gone now. So that's kind of the final word on that. Couple super chats here. First of all, I got this from Mike. I'm disappointed you didn't wear the sweater. Bro, I'm literally wearing it, dude. Like, I have the collar right here. Come on, Mike. That's all right. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it. Yozora Hart, $10 super chat. It really is unfortunate to watch in real time Punk get the chance to lead a successful company against WWE, only to have no respect for anyone involved and leave as soon as he was physically able. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, when you get to the root of the issue, it feels like all of his problems in AEW could have been avoided. You know what I mean? Like, what was like this? I kind of alluded to this earlier, Jamie, but like, what was he so mad about at Brawl Out? Like, why did he because that's like the peak of, like, everybody's doing great in the company. There was that little bit in the Hangman Page storyline where it's like, oh, they're kind of shooting, you know what I mean? But leading into that, like, the vibes are good. Like, there was no issue at all. And then he comes in and he's like, he starts like throwing these shots around in the presser in the scrum, and it was just like, why? Like, what are you doing, man? I don't know. Maybe this was his plan all along. Maybe he was just like, screw it. I want to have all this power, and I want to play TK because I'm TK's favorite, and I know he'll make me the top guy regardless, which is true. So I don't know. What do you any thoughts on that, Jamie?
Yeah, no, I agree. I was, kind of covering the news and stuff like that. I was, I saw far too much on Brawl Out. Kind of, I spoke before about being kind of excited to cover this sort of thing, but I wrote, count too many articles about Brawl Out and stuff like that. But yeah, even with that kind of knowledge and kind of pretty much reading everything that came out, I never like kind of got it. Like you said, like I don't understand where anyone was really coming from in the kind of the way it all happened. Obviously, I kind of mentioned the Hangman Page thing. It seemed like that's where I guess it kind of started. But in terms of where it got to, yeah, I just don't really understand what was going on there. But yeah, I mean,
and to be clear, like, we have more insight to CM Punk than the vast majority of wrestling media does, and even with that, I'm like mystified. I just have no idea what his motivations are half the time in anything that he does. It's just like, you extend it to a wider range. Like, of course, we got the Jack Perry incident, but then there were like all these backstage altercations, and we've heard about stuff that hasn't gotten out too, by the way, like but I mean, the public's publicized like Andrade and Sammy Guevara, right? We've heard about Eddie Kingston getting in people's faces like all the time late last year. And it's just like, some would say that it's bad leadership from TK or whoever, that not fostering environment, but it's also like, no, when you work at any workplace, even one as weird and unique as wrestling, like, you have an obligation to make it a pleasant experience for everybody, right? Like, because it's wrestling, people get this idea that it's kind of a free for all, but like, no, it's a TV show. It's a fucking TV show. You can't walk on the set of Stranger Things and start like beating the shit out of people, or like getting mad because you heard somebody said something about you, right? Just because you can. It's a TV show, everybody. It's supposed to be entertainment. So if you're getting like so heated about this stuff, like, I think you need to like check your priorities, or your anger or whatever, because I don't know. It's just very, very strange to me.
Yeah, I think part of that kind of mindset as well kind of stems from, like, we've heard stories about kind of the ins and outs of behind the scenes in wrestling for years now, and it's always that kind of like, oh, the boys backstage kind of thing. But some of the stuff you would hear about, years and years and years ago, you would like to think now that we've kind of better leadership in place, and kind of just better ideas of what's right and wrong to do in a workplace, that these kind of things wouldn't tend to happen. But as you said, we, in terms of just the stuff that we know is reported about in AEW, it kind of seems that's not the case. And then with the kind of other insights into other stuff that's been going on, it just seems like a wild environment. So it seemed like something like this was going to happen sooner or later, regardless, with the kind of personalities involved. But yeah, they're a very weird thing to follow.
$2 super chat from Chi-Town Spurs. I'm so tired of this Quaker from Lockport. Yeah, hopefully there's no more. We'll just move past it. We'll get over this. Thank you, Chi-Town Spurs. We appreciate it. Okay. I think we're going to move on from Punk, and we're gonna talk Pro, everybody. We're gonna talk we're gonna start with Stardom. We'll start with World Wonder Ring Stardom. Big news. We had I thought we had a great conversation about Stardom last week, getting into the future booking, because they've had so many injury issues, so much, the roster's in flux right now with people who are in and out, active versus inactive. And yeah, it's just been a really interesting time for the promotion. In the last week, as you mentioned last week, we did get a press conference where they announced sort of the future for at least one of the titles going forward. And we know, well, I guess we don't know. We know that one of the people that we know that could be 2 of 6 people who will be fighting for the red belt in the next opportunity. One slot will be either Suzu Suzuki or Hazuki, and the other slot will be one of Maika, Momo Watanabe, Ami Sourei, or Mina Shirakawa. So, Jamie, I was just giving a little bit of the background there. Anything specific you want to add, then just give us the rundown and your thoughts.
Yeah, so just kind of like the specifics of when and where this is all kind of going to be happening. So on Tuesday, the 28th, I believe, we will have in Korakuen Hall this tournament for one half of the red belt bracket. And obviously, Tam Nakano was previously the World of Stardom champion for obviously anyone who missed the press conference itself. She been dealing with a knee injury since her last defense against Natsuko Tora. Became pretty apparent, and we were kind of speaking about it last week, as you mentioned. It was looking unlikely she was going to be there for Queendom, which obviously you need the red belt title match at Queendom. So they vacated the belts. They also vacated the tag belts, which we'll get to in a moment, with kind of two returns that I think could be in the mix there. But so Korakuen Hall, we have two semis and then obviously a final in the main event. It will be Momo Watanabe and Mina Shirakawa on one side of the bracket, and Maika, obviously finalist of this year's 5-star Grand Prix, and Ami Sourei, which is an interesting one to throw in there. You know, they looked at the depth chart and they were like, "Who's on the
next up?"
Yeah. So, yeah, and then on the other side of things, they originally announced that Suzu Suzuki would be putting her 5-star Grand Prix kind of red belt challenging rights on the line on this Korakuen show against Hazuki. I think they looked at the Korakuen card and realized they have a pay-per-view coming up pretty soon and they don't need this match on this card. So I believe Suzu versus Hazuki will be taking place on I want to say December 2nd pay-per-view. I forgot the name. I think it could be Big Winter or something like that. All the Stardom pay-per-view shows kind of bleed into one with their names. But so that's what's going down. And then obviously the winner of those two matches will be facing off for the red belt at Dream Queendom, which is on the December 29th, I believe. And so yeah, that's where we are right now. Obviously, it was originally meant to be Suzu versus Tam at Gold Rush. That obviously never ended up happening. Dave Meltzer did report that Suzu was meant to win that match, which is pretty interesting. I didn't think that was going to be the case, particularly with the way they shuffled around the challenge. You know, they did it earlier than expected. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who comes out with the win in this tournament. You have to assume Suzu's going to win her match against Hazuki and advance. But on the tournament side of things, I think it's going to be an interesting one. But what do you think about this tournament and the kind of the situation of the red belt?
Yeah, it's interesting. You would expect, it's filled. Like three of these people are. I mean, Sorei's kind of just a solid, more of a mid-carder. Three of these people are right on that like cusp upper mid-card main event in Maika, Momo, and Mina. So it's good that they included them in there. I would have just not done the Hazuki match. I probably would have thrown Hazuki in the tournament, and then maybe you have like Ano or Megan Bain, which they did a singles match, something like that, as the briefcase challenger for Suzu, something like that. But I don't hate it. It makes people more confident that Maika will at least make obviously the finals of the tournament, which I think is good, because if I had to guess, she would be the presumptive like favorite among people who would want to have win this tournament. So I think that's good in that sense. Momo and Mina have really good chemistry, by the way, as wrestlers. I have a feeling that match is going to be really good. And then no matter what the final ends up being, I kind of hope it's Maika versus Momo.
Me too.
And I tend to think it will be, just because I think Maika will win the tournament. And I think that Momo being the last challenger that she has to beat makes more sense than Mina Shirakawa, who's been a little de-emphasized since the summer. So I think that all sort of makes sense to me. The Hazuki match is weird. It's just a match to throw on pay-per-view more than anything. Like, it's not, anything crazy. Let's see. Now, yeah, I guess that's the red belt stuff. So that means we'll get, in my opinion, Suzu versus Maika at the pay-per-view. And I think you gotta have Suzu win. She would be my number one choice out of these 6 wrestlers. Suzu would be my number one. I thought she was such an inspired choice to win the 5-star GP, and I think the Maika rematch makes a ton of sense in this situation. you already went to this match in a pinch earlier in the year. I don't think that was the original 5-star GP finals. And now I think you have a chance to do it again, but even better. So that would be my choice for how that would go.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the same idea. My only worry with Micah making the finals is that she's kind of had so many chances now in these big title matches, and I just worry that, like, how many more can she take before people will no longer ever take her seriously? Because I would love to see Micah with the red belt at some point in the near future. You know, I think she always delivers when given these big spots. But regardless, I do tend to agree that Suzu is the pick to go with here. Obviously, especially if the original plan was for Suzu to beat Tam. Anyway, I think, it seems like they wanted to give her a really big push. So, stick with that plan. The unfortunate thing is for a lot of these wrestlers in this kind of tournament, and you kind of look on Twitter, a lot of these wrestlers are people who they have their little sections of fans who have been waiting for a moment for so long, and now they all have like a chance, right? You talk about Hazuki's in there. She's not going to win, but she's in there. Mina fans and Momo fans in particular, they've all been waiting for that chance. But I think Suzu's going to be the one to take it. But I think regardless of whoever comes out on top in the tournament, and even the Hazuki and Suzu case, I think the eventual Red Belt title match will be really exciting.
I'm looking forward to this tournament. I think it's a lot. I love that nobody in the tournament has been world champ before. I think that's a great idea. I think it's very exciting to know that we're going to have a new world champ that we haven't had before. So I think that's a lot of fun. The pay-per-view card for this weekend. Do you have the card up? I have it up, but I didn't know if you're kind of better at the rundowns here.
I don't have it up currently, but
I got it up. No worries. So a few matches here. Obviously the Suzu and Hazuki match that we talked about earlier. Pretty sure Suzu's winning this one. It'd be pretty weird to have Hazuki win that. Hazuki just feels like she's a good stepping stone victory before title match. Obviously, we will have a Goddess of Stardom championship match, Micah and Megan Bain. Obviously, these titles are vacant, as you pointed out earlier. On the website, it says challenger undecided. Can you walk me through that?
So I was going to get into this. So obviously at the same press conference as we had the Red Belt title vacated, we also have the Goddess title vacated. Again, for anyone who missed this, Natsubo's been dealing with an injury as well. A cervical hernia, I believe, is what Utami Hayashishita had as well. Kind of, part of this Stardom injury crisis. So they vacated these tag belts. Obviously, looks like Natsubo won't be back for Queendom either. And Megan Bain and Micah obviously won Goddess Tag League, so they're kind of in line for a shot. At the press conference, and this is kind of where I'm leading to with who I think the challengers for this title are going to be. Aphrodite announced that they're back. Utami Hayashishita, Sai Kamatani, both again who have been out with injury. Utami I mentioned before, and Sai Kamatani got injured on night one of the 5-star Grand Prix. Both of those, by the way, were major favourites going into the tournament, so it was really rough because I think either of them could have had a big case to win that. So I think that we now know that neither of those two are going to be involved in the red belt scene upon their return. So I think it's pretty nailed on that these two are going to be in that tag team spot for this pay-per-view. And I would tend to think that they're going to win that with I believe Megan Bain's kind of stay Stardom, unless there's a change of circumstances or whatever. I think she may not even be around for Queendom. In terms of what I've heard and the kind of visa side of things. So I think, giving the titles to Utami and Saya is an exciting way to go with it. And I'm just looking forward to seeing them back. It's been very noticeable, the lack of kind of big time stars in some of these Stardom shows in recent times. So I'm looking forward to seeing Aphrodite back.
It also doesn't even really make sense to have if Micah is the perspective, other person in the red belt match, having her as tag champ doesn't even make sense either. So I'm desperately hoping that it's Utami and Saya. I've missed Saya a lot. She is one of my favorites in Stardom, and but I think she became a little overexposed with her white belt reign, and so I think she lost a little bit of her luster. But her absence has been missed a lot. I would say disproportionately. Is disproportionately so. So really glad that she's back, and of course Utami is always reliable. So hopefully that's Aphrodite is our next tag champions. We will also have for the strong women's title match. This is a good matchup. Julia will defend against Azumi. So big singles test for Azumi, who doesn't get that many singles like heavyweight title opportunities beyond the high speed belt. This should be a fun one.
Yeah, this should be really good. I mean, I'm kind of expecting Julia to retain here, but as we did recently talk about, maybe going overseas and stuff like that. So I'm kind of good with either winner. But in terms of the match, I think it should be great. We've seen these two mix it up before. It's a really interesting blend of styles. With Julia's hard hitting, kind of strikes and suplexes, and obviously Azumi always brings the high speed influence, even if she's no longer technically in that division. That's kind of the style she's known for. So yeah, it should be a really interesting one. I think this on paper is Julia's most interesting strong women's championship defense to date. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if she retains. Obviously, there's WWE rumors, but it seems like she's locked until March. So I won't put too much thought into those in terms of this match right now. But yeah, it should be good stuff.
Julia's so awesome. She's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I think she's going to do great here. Azumi is one that it's weird. She's one of those weird circumstances. There's a couple people on the roster like this who she's so experienced, but she's still so young that I think they're still a little bit hesitant to give her that like monster push. Although, if Suzu's going to be your world champ, why not Azumi at this point? But in any case, Azumi is extremely consistent, but I think she lacks in those like big time classic matches so far in her career. This could be a good one. It's kind of a mid card spot, not like a major pay-per-view, so maybe not, but I think what we get should be really good. High speed title will be May Sarah against defending against Tekla of DDM. Tekla has had a pretty quiet year. May Sarah obviously recently winning the 5-star. This will be, I think, or not winning the 5-star. That'd be crazy. Don't think May Sarah is ever going to win the 5-star, folks. But yeah, obviously recently winning the high speed championship and yeah, defending against Tekla here.
I'm really looking forward to this. I'm a big fan of Tekla. Really big fan of May Sarah as well. I think she's been a super addition to the company. I do worry to think what Stardom would look like without May Sarah and Suzu amongst all these absences. But yeah, in terms of Tekla, I think I was speaking to Scott of on the 5-star show quite recently. We were talking about Tekla and kind of in a similar kind of vein to like a Saya Ida in Stardom. I think she's super underrated, but you can slot her kind of anywhere in that card, and I think she always does a good job. So yeah, I'm excited to see her get this opportunity. I think May Sarah's reign is kind of only just getting going. We only just recently had her first defense, so I'd expect her to retain here. But it is nice to see, Tekla getting these big time title opportunities, and yeah, hopefully, at some point down the line we can get a high speed reign for Tekla, because I think, again, like I said, she's someone who's very a victim of Stardom's kind of depth in their roster. There's so many high quality wrestlers there that I think like occasionally someone's going to get lost in the shuffle. But I think this should be a real nice opportunity for both to shine here.
You mentioned Scott with the 5-star Joshi show. I don't know anything about that. Don't know nothing about no 5-star Joshi show. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just kidding. The joke is that I started that show. Well, Scott and I did anyway. So yeah, that's and then we also, this one is weird. We have a different style match, like you martial arts rules essentially. Nanai Takahashi against the Scandinavian Hurricane, Alice Inc. Which is not a match I expected to see on a Stardom pay-per-view. Don't know how this is going to go at all. It could be really bad. It could be pretty good though. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I remember talking about the Shuri UWF rules match we had with the Scandinavian Hurricane to give it an official Stardom title. And it was one of the better ones we'd had in recent times. It was a bit more kick heavy than the kind of grappling stuff we had. But this was not one I had lined up. I didn't think this was going to be one we were getting. I did. I popped recently. I saw Rossi Ogawa on Twitter. He was, he kind of tweets about the kind of the Stardom house shows that are going on. And this was a Twitter translation, so this may not exactly be what he was talking about, but kind of the gist was like, it turns out the Scandinavian Hurricane can also wrestle normal matches, which that popped me a little bit. I don't know exactly if that's what he meant, but that was good stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've liked what I've seen of Alice Inc. To give her a WXW name so far in Stardom. She's not someone I was familiar with beforehand. But yeah, throwing in there with Nanai Takahashi, who I know she does have a little bit of a background in this kind of thing, not in terms of I don't think it's what she's been doing recently, but I know she does have
Mhm.
kind of experience in the more shoot style of things. But yeah, not one I was expecting. But you know, the passion injection matches that we've had throughout the year with kind of lesser talent on the roster have been some of the best stuff we've had out of all of these people. I think that's kind of like, you know, a Ruaka or even a Saida. You know, so obviously this isn't a passion injection match in name, but I think there should be some passion injected into the Scandinavian Hurricane here, and I think it could be pretty decent.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about with Stardom? Do you want to talk about? I saw a couple of people ask about it. Julia made some interesting comments. There was the firing of that Harada guy. I got to be honest. I don't really follow the minutia of Stardom. I just kind of watch the shows. I'm kind of half casual, half in the know. So just kind of what was the situation there?
Yeah. So kind of this all kind of started. Well, obviously not exactly where it started, but this kind of came to a head at the start of the Gold Rush show. Obviously, we had Kidani from Bushi Road address the crowd at the start of the show, and it seemed like it was some sort of issue of a time being changed in terms of when the show was going to start. I kind of joked to Scott, I was saying before, you know, the Japanese typically very on point with their times, you know, their trains and stuff like that. Something they're quite known for, and this seemed like to cause a real uproar with certain sections of the Stardom audience. So much so that Kidani felt it was need to, you know, make a very public apology on this case. Following on from this, it became clear that the kind of whole hierarchy of Stardom was kind of under scrutiny for what had been going on here, and in addition, the kind of current injury crisis, and that led to I struggle to remember the guy's first name, but Harada, like you mentioned, the previous president involved, stepped down from his position. I believe he's been there since working with Bushi Road, at least since about 2016, I believe. So kind of a big deal for him to be stepping down. But yeah, and then in came again, I forget his first name, but Okada. This guy, not Kazuchika, although that would be an interesting turn of events.
That'd be good booking.
Yeah, yeah, a new position for the Rainmaker there. But it seems like he was from another of Bushi Road's divisions, and from what we've seen of him, he seems to be a big pro wrestling fan. So that's good. You know, he kind of, you know, it's nice to see that he kind of follows along with the product and stuff like that. He's gonna, you know, have a passion for it. But the general kind of thing with Julia as well. So she did the interview with, I want to say Tokyo Sports, but I may be waffling. And she's kind of talking. Obviously, she's been outspoken about the injuries before at press conferences, stuff like that. And she also kind of mentioned that under the previous direction, some of the kind of things we were seeing, the people making the decisions weren't the wrestler names involved, right? It became kind of clear that Rossi Ogawa was not kind of the leading force in the direction of Stardom. She talked about things like the Halloween show that we got, you know, with kind of the that Legend show and stuff like that, and the kind of more sports entertainment-y thing that we've been getting out of Stardom, you know, I guess kind of Stardom and showcase, things like that. Were not kind of things that, you know, a lot of the wrestlers wanted to do. I believe after she mentioned after the recent Moneyball ladder match, which she said, firstly, she said that the white belt title match should have main evented the head of that, which I agree. And secondly, she also said, you know, can I just wrestle a normal match? You know, these kind of things are not something that the roster, you know, it's not what they want to do in Stardom. So with that being said, the kind of change in management and the acknowledgement that kind of a schedule change and a different direction needs to be kind of taken up. I think it is kind of exciting to see for Stardom fans that you know, change is going to be made. At least it seems like, because you know, we've been covering Stardom throughout the year. It did seem like the vibes were a little off compared to the previous kind of 2 or 3 years that we've had. You know, at least during the pandemic, they weren't always at their highest level for a number of different reasons. But yeah, it is going to be interesting to see heading into 2024 what kind of adjustments are going to be made there.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't really have much insight to any of that. I'm just, it's interesting that Julia's like, hey, this is how I want to wrestle, and I like that perspective because it mirrors a lot of the fans, right? Like I would say the majority of the fans, like at least Western fans. I can't speak to Japanese fans or anything like that, but fans that, you know, we interact with on Twitter or whatever, weren't a huge fan of a lot of the, you know, like the Legend stuff and the sports entertainment stuff, the Stardom X Stardom shows, that type of stuff. Just wasn't our cup of tea. And for me, for sure, I get into Stardom because I think it's the best women's wrestling since All Japan Women, which is great because I love women's wrestling. And it's not like, if I wanted sports entertainment, there are two really big companies in America that I get on YouTube TV that I can watch pretty much any day of the week. So, yeah, no, I'm glad that I should say I'm encouraged by the idea of a reorientation towards what really sets Stardom apart, which is just great wrestling. And I'm looking forward to that continuing throughout, next year's 5-star and everything like that. Should be great.
Yeah, and I think going into 2024 with a new world champion leading the kind of promotion, I think that's a good kind of sign. It's obviously it's not connected to the kind of issue at hand, but I think it just kind of leans towards kind of going into a new era for the promotion, which I think is very much needed.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit here. Jamie, let's head to New Japan. Let's talk about the World Tag League. There were 6 World Tag League shows this week since the last time we recorded, which I think is pretty impressive. The current standings, there are 3 teams that are undefeated in Block A. TMDK is the only undefeated team so far. In Block B, it is Monster Sauce, Lance Archer, and Alex Zane, and then the Just 5 Guys team of Taichi and Yuya Uemura are undefeated as well. Couple notable results. Goto and Yoshihashi have lost twice. Obviously, the current champions. They've lost to Hikuleo and El Phantasmo, and they've also lost to, who was it? Oh, to Monster Sauce. So both of those teams obviously have claims to the IWGP Heavyweight title, if that's where they ended up going with that. On the flip side, same thing for Hikuleo and Phantasmo. Taichi and Uemura, and then Tsuji and Zandokan both have claims to their titles now as well, based on losses throughout this tournament. But how much World Tag League have you been able to watch here, Jamie?
I kind of watched the first couple of shows, and then I've been since then I've been picking and choosing the kind of matches in terms of keeping up with it. I do intend to kind of loop back and catch as much as I can, but I've seen the most important things pretty much.
Nice. Any matches or any individuals standing out to you?
Yeah, there's a couple of teams so far who I think have been really kind of standing out amongst the pack. First of all, the War Dogs, Gabe Kidd and Alex Coughlin, who are one of the favourites, obviously heading in to the tournament. All of their matches, Gabe Kidd in particular, brings that intensity and like real sense of hatred to the majority of his matches. And they've had some really good matches with the likes of Kaito Kiyomiya and Ryohei Oiwa.
This was such a fun match on I think it was night 1, right? Yeah, it was such a fun one. Count out loss. It was just great.
Yeah, super heated, and it also seemed to point towards a potential Gabe Kidd and Kaito Kiyomiya match at Wrestle Kingdom. I know Gabe Kidd's been kind of calling him out on that, which obviously Okada's now going to be busy with Danielson, so Kiyomiya is free, and if he's going to be in and around New Japan a little bit more, then this is the one I'm absolutely looking to see. And then I think Ren Narita and Shota Umino as well. I think they're solely gelling as a tag team. I think their first couple of performances were kind of it was noticeable. They're not like a traditional tag team, unlike some of the other teams in the mix. But I think slowly they're kind of building up that chemistry. It'd be interesting to see what kind of their outcome is from this, because obviously they either win this tournament as some people predicted, or I guess they have a singles match coming out of it at Wrestle Kingdom. And yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed Tsuji and Zandokan in the mix. I think they're a really fun team. On the kind of other things, I think on the kind of reverse side of things, I think Yuya Uemura has not fully found his footing just yet in New Japan. I've seen a couple of people pointing this out. I don't think there's anything to get like majorly worried with. He's only recently just come back and he's been working kind of comedy stuff in Impact. It's a bit of a switch up, but hopefully he can kind of pick it up and in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, those are my real big highlights so far from the World Tag League. I think go all your way to seek out those War Dogs matches and Kiyomiya and Oiwa, who I think are really exciting to see.
I love this Kiyomiya and Oiwa team. I was super checked out of Noah over the last few months, and so this is my first time really seeing them together. I know they've been a tag team in Noah for a little while here, and they're just great. Like Oiwa was a great young wrestler, really. And this is crazy because Kiyomiya obviously has this big pedigree already, but I don't like. I don't really see a big difference between the two of them in like star power or anything like that. Like at least when they're together, I think they're just a really excellent team. That I would not like. Can Kaito just join New Japan
Yeah,
already?
come on.
Like, can we just like what are we doing? Like, come
It never
on.
sounds like Noah particularly value him. I mean, there's been
No.
comments where it's like, when the kind of the M1 and the G1 overlap was happening and stuff like that, there were comments brought up. But yeah, it seems like it's an inevitable thing. But it's like, can we like get to it and can we make it official? Because it seems like he's more valued, at least in the future for New Japan than Noah.
Yeah, it feels like it was like more Muto that liked Kiyomiya.
Yeah.
But it's weird because Kiyomiya was champion for like a year before Muto was even part of Noah. So it's like, did they sour on him? Like, did he not draw well? And that's what, like, I don't know. It's really odd to me. I'm pretty baffled what they're doing with Kaito in pro wrestling Noah. He should just be like, we can just do a mulligan, say he's part of the like the Tsuji and Uemura class. And then just move from there. But anyway, love that team. I think they've been great. Love Tsuji. Tsuji's so awesome. He's such a fun wrestler, so charismatic, incredible moveset. I think he and Zandokan are a really fun pair. Zandokan like has no idea what he's doing out there half the time. It's kind of great. He like, but then he'll every 5 moves he'll like hit something awesome where it's like, oh, okay, I see that. I see what you're doing there. He's obviously got a ton of athletic talent. Yeah, that's been a ton of fun. The match from today, I would strongly recommend going and did you watch the Uemura's match from today by any chance?
I didn't have a chance to catch it today.
Okay, that was his best performance yet. Him and Taichi against Suzuki and Nagata was a really good matchup, as you would expect based on those 4 guys. And I definitely recommend checking out that one. Main event of this show was pretty good too. Tsuji and Zandokan versus Phantasmo and Hikuleo as well. But a couple disappointments. I feel like they're not showcasing Soberano and Atlantis at all. I feel like they've been super. I mean, it's been 3 shows, so nothing like crazy, but I just feel like they've been super underutilized. So I don't know. It's a little odd. Soberano is so good. Like I don't even think CMLL or New Japan realize how good Soberano is. Like he's awesome. But it just doesn't happen. So maybe we'll see. Maybe they'll get a big matchup later on. House of Torture is so fucking garbage. I'm so sick of him. I never want to see him again. I'm so fucking sick of House of Torture. And I will say I like Monster Sauce as a team. I think they're a lot of fun. They're both like kind of spot fest wrestlers, but in really different ways. And I think it suits their style really well. I would not be shocked if they end up being in the finals of this tournament. I think they are a really over team, and I think New Japan loves Archer and to a lesser extent Zayn, and would love to have them involved on Wrestle Kingdom weekend. So could be something we see there.
I wouldn't mind that at all. I mean, I'm a big fan of Archer. I kind of I'm always a little bit disappointed in how he's used in AEW, and I know he's not kind of around all the time. But you look at when he's there in New Japan. I just kind of wish he kind of stuck around more often. There doesn't seem to be any real direction in AEW. I know he's with he's with the Righteous now, I guess.
Is he?
I think so. Him, Jake Robertson, the Righteous, I believe. They may have already. I don't know. I don't care.
I seriously don't know. Like that's how checked out of AEW. I have no idea.
I'm a big fan of this team. I wouldn't mind seeing them make the finals. Obviously, they have a claim to a title shot, regardless. Now, they're a team I wouldn't be surprised to see pick up the strong titles at some point in the near future. But yeah, they're a very, very fun team.
Let's see. So upcoming on the docket for this tour, we will already like be close to being, well, actually, I guess not quite. So a week from today, so yeah, they're doing this whole tour, 16 shows in about 3 weeks, which is like so crazy. So yeah, we have 5. We'll have 5 more shows on. Wait, no, we'll have 6 more shows. No, just 5. Sorry, we'll have 5 more shows on by the time we record next. And yeah, maybe I'll just go through some of these shows and see what else we got on the docket here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, all right. Main event of the next show on Tuesday. It makes sense because Nagoya is kind of a bigger. This is where that Stardom pay-per-view will be in Aichi in Nagoya. Main event is Kiyomiya and Oiwa against Narita and Umino. Should be really fun. Looking forward to that one quite a bit. Next main event, this should be good too. Bishamon against Soberano and Atlantis. So we got some good matchups coming on this week. We've got fucking Toru Yano in a main event. Ugh, get out of here. It's Narita and Umino against Yano and Ishii. In Osaka, it'll be Bishamon versus Tsuji and Zandokan Jr. That should be good. And then a week from today, it will be Narita and Umino against TMDK. That could be really good too.
Yeah.
Could be a good one. So, Umino and Narita are getting all these main events. I wonder, it's got to be either they're going to win this tournament or they're going to fight each other at Wrestle Kingdom because they've been easily the most featured act in this entire tournament.
Yeah, there's no real kind of clear-cut direction for either of these guys in terms of heading into Wrestle Kingdom unless it's with each other, in either of those two ways. So yeah, I tend to agree that something's going to be big happening here with these two.
And you could, Narita's at a point you could not have him in a big program for Wrestle Kingdom and it'd be fine. But Umino is too big at this point to not be in some sort of big program at Wrestle Kingdom. So you have to anticipate it's going to be one of those two options. Let's see. Anything else New Japan you want to talk about, or can we do a little whip around to some of the other stuff in Puro?
No, I think that's kind of pretty much it with New Japan. Yeah, let's get into the kind of other happenings.
I always love November and December because we always get some interesting stuff as companies kind of work around the turn of the year and try new things a little bit. I think it's a good time. Tomorrow we have a really fun match in Pro Wrestling Noah. They do their Monday Magic shows, which they started about a month ago, and Nagisa Nozaki, formerly of Pro Wrestling Wave, now she's a freelancer, I believe, is taking on Miyuki Takase, two of the most high-profile freelancers in Joshi, on Pro Wrestling Noah tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is a very interesting one. Obviously, Nozaki left Wave. Very, very big deal for Wave. Obviously, as you mentioned, kind of one of the most prominently featured talents over there, and I was kind of wondering where she's going to go. And Noah's kind of I was going to say Noah's kind of women's division. They don't have an official women's division, but the kind of freelancers that they bring in, for the most part, everything I've seen in terms of the people they featured have all been really positive stuff. Miyuki Takase, obviously, we've seen the kind of Taichi in there when she's really rolling. So hopefully we get a good match out of these two. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of Nozaki's long-term direction is, whether she's just going to freelance around for the kind of long term, or whether she's going to maybe try and slot in with a promotion or something like that. But it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, I don't know if there's been any further traction on the kind of the GHC women's title talk. I know that was a kind of thing happening a few months back. Obviously, we haven't heard anything in particular there, but as they keep kind of featuring these freelance talents, I think it's something there's always room for, I think.
And then we also and then Monday Magic they often do like a mystery vortex style, so we'll get some other stuff tomorrow. Probably should be good stuff. I'm a little more enthused by Pro Wrestling Noah over the last couple of weeks. I completely forgot to mention I was going to talk about they had a show with 2 title matches from Korakuen this just a couple days ago, tag title match as well as a junior title match. And this tells you how memorable that tag title match was for me because I literally can't remember who was in it. I watched it yesterday, and it was Daiki Inaba and Masa Kitamiya. And who were the champions?
It's Jack Morris and
and it's Jack Morris and Anthony Green, right? Anthony Green pinned Kitamiya in the match, which is kind of crazy. Yeah. But this was not that good of a match. I like Jack Morris a lot. I like Kitamiya a lot. Inaba and Green are like nothing to me. They are just guys, not just 5 guys. They're literally just guys, or not even dumb guys. They're just guys. So, did you watch any of this show, perchance?
No, I haven't caught any of this.
Yeah. Main event I thought was much better. It still wasn't great, but I thought it was pretty good. Daga successfully defended the junior title against Shuji Kondo. which it was long. It was like 22 minutes, 23 minutes, something like that. But it was good. I thought good, solid stuff. I like Kondo, and I like Daga a lot more than other people do. So I thought this was fine. But still, it's just like, I don't know, like come on, you're pro wrestling Noah. You're supposed to be the in-ring people, and it's just very, I don't know, very sober, very detached. The crowd's not that into what they're doing. Just kind of wrestling for wrestling's sake right now. So, however, big show this weekend. They're going to Yokohama Budokan, and there's a couple interesting matchups here. What looks like it'll be the main event is this. It's essentially a preview match. So, what announced this week, we had the world title challenger for Keno in the New Year's show, which is usually like one of their biggest shows of the year, is Manabu Soya. It is not like some huge name. It's we got the big gorilla man. And he's so it'll be Soya, who's been on they've really featured him since Congo disbanded. But they have a preview tag here, which is so weird. Keno is teaming with Jinsei Shinzaki, formerly Hakushi WWF, Michinoku Pro, against Soya and Tatsumi Fujinami, of all people. And that's this Saturday at Yokohama Budokan. I presume that'll be the main event, but yeah, what a weird one, right?
Yeah, very interesting. I don't know how I had kind of missed this, but I wasn't aware of this announcement. But very, very interesting though. Pro wrestling though is a very, very interesting promotion to keep track of, at least in the recent times. But I mean, I'm a big fan of Jinsei Shinzaki. Whenever I kind of see him still pop around, he's still got it, man. He's still got it.
You can do some flips.
He's always been a favorite of mine, so it's always nice to see him in there. But yeah, very, very weird matchup. I don't know what the thinking is, but I'll be watching. So I mean, I guess it works as a draw.
The other big match on this show is Jack Morris is defending the national title against Hajime Ohara, which don't give a shit about that because Hajime Ohara beats women. So I actually, well, never mind. It was weird because, okay, this is going to sound distasteful, but this is just me making connections. The woman he was accused of beating is Nagisa Nozaki, who is wrestling for Pro Wrestling Noah tomorrow. So I don't know. That's strange. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I'll just sort of let that one be. Kiyomiya Oiwa and Dr. Wagner Jr. are all teaming together on this show too against Real. So that could be interesting as well. I kind of like that team. Okay, that's gonna be it for Noah. I'm gonna go to DDT for a little bit here. We haven't really done much of a whip around, but here's the thing, Jamie. I like wrestling. And so I've been, and I finally have time. But this fall for me is just crazy busy between teaching, coaching, attending class. I was averaging, 60 plus hours a week into like actively doing something. I just didn't have the time, and including my weekends, I just didn't have the time to catch up on stuff. So it was really nice this morning to watch a little bit of DDT from last night. The DO Grand Prix kicked off last night, and it was an okay opening show. Did you catch any of this, Jamie?
I saw a couple of bits, but I haven't catch the show in full yet.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna breeze through the first three here. So Rei Saito, it's very weird that only one of the Saito brothers is in this tournament. It's very bad. It'd be like if 5 years ago they did a G1 and like Jey Uso was in it, but not Jimmy or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's very strange. But regardless, he pinned the DDT Universal Champion Mao in his debut match. So he's got a claim to that title. That they might do that match at a certain point. So that's kind of interesting. I thought that match was okay. Kanon beat Kazuki Harada. This was a comedy match, as you would expect. Yuki Ino, who I think might win this tournament, pinned Harashima in 5 minutes. He squashed him. Ino has, he's formerly, like, he's Pheromones guy, right? Which is, I think, the worst act in wrestling. But he's sort of repackaged a little bit. He's a little bit more serious. and he has an incredible finisher. He hits a standing spear, and then he gets back up and he spears the seated opponent, and it is nasty. Like, he killed Harashima on the finish here, and I was like, whoa, goddamn. And it felt like, a lot of times you get a finish in kind of a short amount of time against an established wrestler, and you're like, that was kind of unearned. No, he killed Harashima there, and I thought it was a really effective booking to get him across as a killer. So yeah, I think Eno might win this tournament. I think he might win.
Yeah, well, just kind of on that point, whenever I kind of catch glimpses of him, and I tend to agree with the pheromones thing, they're not for me either. But it's very unfortunate when I see him wrestling. It's noticeable that there's something there, right? But just the kind of gimmick and kind of the matches are never going to be kind of for me. So hopefully, as you say, with the kind of renewed focus and maybe a change in direction, I think if he comes out of this the winner, I think he'll be a real player for DDT, and hopefully it's kind of moving away from the the typical pheromones shenanigans.
Aside from the main event, if you watch anything from this show, watch the finish of that match, because you'll be like, wow, okay, yeah. And if you're not familiar, for those who are watching, he's like a Japanese Samoan, essentially. Like, he's like a sumo guy, but they have him doing like essentially haka, but like Japanese gentrified haka. It's very weird. But I mean, he is a big man, and he is dense. So yeah, a spear from him, as I think you could imagine, would be pretty nasty. Yukio Naya pinned Chris Brooks in the semi-main event. Naya is good. He was so uncoordinated when he started in DDT. They've done a really good job training him up. I still think he's missing a little bit, but he's a pretty solid wrestler. This match didn't have that much heat, but I thought it was a pretty solid wrestling match. Chris Brooks obviously just lost the KOD championship a couple weeks ago. And then the main event, easily the best match on the show. I didn't think it was like blow away incredible, but I thought it was really great. Yuki Ueno pinned Kazusada Higuchi in about 17-18 minutes, and wow, I mean, these two are so great together. They've had great chemistry for years and years, and they just continue to extend that chemistry. Higuchi's a killer, but I love that they booked Ueno to get the win. It's so easy. Like, it feels like champions in tournaments almost always lose their first match, right? Because you want to get, booked that the champion is vulnerable. But no, they gave Ueno a clean win over Higuchi, who was champ earlier this year. And it was just great. It was a really good match. Ueno is such a great athlete. He's so strong. He's able to he's able to power the much bigger Higuchi up and do all that stuff. So that's always fun. And yeah, there was a spot in here where Higuchi, essentially, he does the Kobashi chops, the front chops, right, where he essentially is shoving, doing the two-hand shiver, and he goes back and runs up against the ropes, and then Ueno comes back and he does a standing drop kick, and I mean, he jumps over Higuchi, his feet hit the top of his head. It was pretty amazing. So that was easy match. Recommend, one of the better matches I saw this week, and I watched a lot of wrestling this week, so it might have been the best match I actually saw this week. So yeah, really good stuff on that one. Yeah, I think that Yuki Ino is going to win this tournament. I think he's going to be the guy. They really have loved him in Pheromones, and I think what you do with a comedy gimmick like that is hopefully eventually you translate that character into someone who keeps all the charisma and the fan investment while also being a great wrestler between the ropes too. And I think that's the goal with Eno here as well. All right. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else from around the Pro Joshi scene?
No, I think that's kind of the main. I think that we've hit the kind of main points there. Nothing's really springing to mind. I do enjoy that we can kind of, do a bit of a whistle stop tour of all the big things happening, especially as we kind of, approaching the end of the year and obviously Wrestle Kingdom kind of season. I think back to last year when we were covering sort of thing, and it seems like there's a show on pretty much most days as we build up to Wrestle Kingdom. So keeping up with the kind of the goings on around the pro scene is going to be very, very very beneficial as we approach a very busy season. So yeah, it's good to catch up on other stuff.
Okay. One thing I want to mention before we go, I think we're going to get a Shibata match in Japan in the next month or so.
Yes.
I think it's going to happen just like last year. If you'll recall, they did that, I can't even remember what the show was. I think it was like loosely 0-1 affiliated, but like not branded as such, when he wrestled Tom Lawler. And yeah, I think it was reported that he lost the pure title, right, to Wheeler Yuta. And it was reported that that was because he has to go back to Japan for a while. Brian Alvarez was told by one source that it's just a visa thing. He was told by another source that it's something else. I think even if it is just a visa thing, I think, yeah, it was the Inoki show, right? Thank you. It was the Inoki show. And I think regardless of what happens, we're going to get Shibata in Japan, which is always very exciting. One of my favorite wrestling moments of this year is being able to see Shibata wrestle in person, as I was able to do at a Chicago AW Dynamite. I watched him get pinned by Dimebag Danny Garcia. But it is what it is. So no, it will not be New Japan. I do not think he will ever wrestle for New Japan proper again. And it's disappointing, but I appreciate New Japan taking a hard line. It's best of both worlds, right? On one side, you get to see an incredible wrestler wrestle. On the other side, it's a company protecting their talent, right? And Shibata has more than paid back, any debt that he would have given by getting injured through training in the LA dojo and everything like that. So, yeah, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, it should be pretty exciting to see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, as you said, where it kind of slots in. I think it's been pretty evident with his lack of involvement in New Japan since his return to the ring. His initial Wrestle Kingdom return. That's not going to be something that's going to be happening at least anytime soon, unless there's kind of a change in stance there. Which, as you said, it's completely fair. I always want to err on the side of precaution. If New Japan on, of the belief that it's the right thing to do, putting him out there, particularly with how his return went, where they kind of, he's brought to have gone off script and had a match when he wasn't really meant to. I kind of understand that there, which is, it's kind of frustrating because I think there's a lot of very, very cool things he could be doing there. There's kind of stuff with Ren Narita and Gabe Kidd and stuff like that. But regardless of whether he pops up, I think there's always going to be something interesting to see from Katsuyori Shibata. And I mean, there's a lot of people on the kind of scene that he hasn't had the chance to work with in a very long time. So wherever he kind of pops up, if he is to pop up anywhere, it'll be very interesting to follow. And I'm looking forward to whatever that is.
All right, Jamie, I think it's that time. Beast of the week. That's me right now. I'm ripping my shirt. Yeah, I think it's that time. We already got Murph's Zandokan Jr. Great choice. I think that's a great choice for Beast of the Week so far. Jamie, what about yourself?
My Beast of the Week is someone who made their return at Survivor Series, but no, it's not the guy from Chicago. My Beast of the Week is Randall Keith Orton. Because, well, couple of reasons. First of all, he's fucking juiced to the gills. he's
so jacked. I saw his picture. I'm like, whoa, dude.
That's I don't mind a bit of a few steroids in my wrestling. It's something I don't mind from time to time. It's funny. I mentioned I can't remember who I said it to, but Randy lost his weed plug in Matt Riddle and filled the void with steroids. It's just you need to fill the void. But secondly, he took like no bumps, and when he came in the War Games match, took no bumps, did the big RKO, got out of there, which I think is pretty real. And also it's just nice to see Randy back. He's been out for like almost 2 years now. It's pretty insane, and he got a big pop. Obviously, he wasn't the biggest return of the night, but he was the one I got the most enjoyment out of in terms of what they were doing on the show. So it's nice to see Orton back in WWE. So yeah, my Beast of the Week is the Viper, Randall Keith.
I'm going to do one that if you told me a year ago this was going to be a Beast of the Week choice for me, I'd be like, you're crazy. But I'm going to go for Yuki Ino from DDT. That's like, you got to watch that finish. Yeah. He flattens Harashima in it. And it was just great. Like, I love and I'm so fucking sick of pheromones. Like, they are genuinely probably the biggest reason why I just have not been as interested in DDT, is just watching that shit over and over. So I love the Eno finish. I love the push they're giving him. Anything fresh in DDT is good for me. So I'm gonna go with Yuki Eno. I think collectively, tell me if you disagree. I think the tag team of Kiyomiya and Oiwa
I like it.
is a strong choice for collective Beast of the Week. Sound good?
I like it. One of the most exciting things currently going on in New Japan.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, everybody. Hey, I just got to shout this out. This was our most viewed episode of Dumb Guy Live ever. We had over 100 live viewers at one point. Punk. But the thing is, even though of course we knew that as soon as we stopped talking about Punk, people would leave, but even through that, even after that, we had our most viewership just talking about Perot, even with that. So enough of you stayed around and were interested in what we had to say about all this stuff. So we really, really appreciate you guys tuning in. Schedule, like I said, schedule is opening up for me. Plan on doing this way more. So excited for Wrestle Kingdom season. It's the best time of the year in Japanese professional wrestling, and yeah, we're excited to keep sharing it with you. So for Murph, for Jamie, and for myself, P, this has been Dumb Guy Life. Stay dumb.